The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
I mean, it's wild how fast it happens.
Right, totally. Welcome to Starship Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today's deep dive, well, it's centering around a headline that just exploded everywhere. The headline is, Pete Davidson's girlfriend says she finally figured out something every other woman couldn't.
Yeah, and the internet is currently tearing itself apart over an Elle magazine essay and, of all things, a YouTube feeding guide.
I know, right? Like a feeding guide. But we are pulling the facts straight from the sources that started this massive fire today.
Exactly.
We're looking at that deeply emotional essay published in Elle magazine, the foreword to a Tommy Tippy YouTube feeding guide, and a huge stack of entertainment news reports tracking this couple's literally every move.
Because people are obsessed. But we aren't just reciting a timeline here. We're exploring the hidden mechanics of celebrity motherhood,
Right.
the intense physiological toll of chronic illness colliding with a newborn, and the surprisingly raw relationship reality facing Pete Davidson and Elsie Hewitt.
Because, honestly, the story being sold on the red carpet is very different from the reality playing out inside their house.
Oh, 100%. When you bypass the honeymoon phase and jump straight into the trenches of sleep deprivation, I mean, it triggers a massive shock to the system.
So let's just start with the revelation that sparked this whole cultural conversation, because it centers around something that is actually incredibly mechanical.
Yeah, it's so practical.
Right. Elsie Hewitt literally cracked a physical code when it came to feeding her baby, but her broader decision ignited an absolute internet war.
And to understand why the stakes were so high for her, we really have to look at the physiological trauma she was dealing with before the baby even arrived.
That context is everything, right? Like, leading up to this pregnancy, she had been battling severe chronic pain for years.
Right, before finally being diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis.
And for those unfamiliar, stage 4 isn't just a painful period.
No, not at all. It means endometrial-like tissue is growing aggressively outside the uterus. It creates these deep lesions and thick scar tissue that can, literally fuse internal organs together.
Oh, wow. That sounds agonizing.
It is. The body is essentially locked in a state of chronic inflammation.
And the timeline here is just brutal. I mean, in her LEA essay, she revealed that she had barely recovered from laparoscopic excision surgery.
Which is a major procedure.
Right, where they go in and physically cut all of that diseased tissue out. And she had barely recovered from that when she found out she was pregnant. It was a total surprise.
Think about the mechanics of that for a second. She has deep internal wounds from the excision surgery, and immediately her uterus begins to rapidly expand.
Right, so it's pulling on everything.
Exactly. It's pulling and stretching on that fresh internal surgical trauma. She had been looking forward to finally reclaiming her body, and living without pain. And suddenly her body was completely derailed again.
She was frequently ill, deeply uncomfortable, and essentially enduring 9 months of just bodily surrender.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the arrival of baby Scottie in December of 2025.
Right, and the terrifying feeding struggles that followed.
That part was so raw.
In the foreword for this YouTube feeding guide, Elsie details how, for 2 agonizing weeks, she just could not get Scottie to drink from a bottle without the baby thrashing and crying.
And 2 weeks in newborn time is an absolute eternity.
Oh, it really is. And then a mom friend suggested a tiny mechanical fix, just changing the bottle's nipple size from a 1 to a 2.
It sounds so minor, but the physics of infant feeding are incredibly precise.
Wait, really? Like, how much of a difference does the size make?
A huge difference. A size 1 nipple restricts the flow of milk, so a newborn doesn't choke. But if the baby is ready for a faster flow and the milk isn't coming, they have to create a massive vacuum with their mouth to pull the liquid out.
Oh, I see.
And that vacuum effect causes them to swallow gulp after gulp of ambient air. That air gets trapped in their tiny intestines as gas bubbles, which causes severe cramping.
So the baby isn't just frustrated. The baby is actually in physical pain.
Exactly.
She wrote that she popped that size 2 nipple onto the bottle, the flow increased, and Scottie latched perfectly. She said, quote, "I wept. I had cracked the code."
It is a beautiful, practical victory.
It really is. But it was the emotional code she cracked in that same essay that set the internet on fire.
Oh, yeah. The backlash was insane.
She made the conscious decision to exclusively formula feed to protect her mental health, And she wrote candidly about the quiet shame that society attaches to that choice.
Because she was navigating what sociologists call the moral hierarchy of motherhood.
The moral hierarchy. That's a heavy term.
It is, but it's accurate. Breastfeeding is universally sold to women as the ultimate gold standard. It's framed as ancient, instinctual, and like the only truly maternal choice.
And formula is the opposite.
Right. Conversely, formula is culturally framed as a backup plan, the thing you settle for if your body fails or if you just aren't willing to make the sacrifice.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because the pushback she received was ferocious.
It really was.
When you look at the comments, you have people citing the World Health Organization. They are pointing to decades of robust nutritional science and immunology that says breast milk reduces the risk of ear infections, builds the gut microbiome, and provides antibodies that formula simply cannot replicate.
Right.
So when Elsie brushes that aside to prioritize her own comfort, aren't her critics raising a completely valid point about the science? We have to look at both sides here.
Oh, it is a totally fair question. And nutritionally, the science regarding the immunological benefits of breast milk is irrefutable. We aren't disputing that. But that is where the mechanical breakdown in the public discourse happens. Psychologically, what you are seeing in the comment section isn't actually a debate about immunology.
What is it then?
It's an emotional audit.
Wait, an emotional audit? How so?
Imagine you just paid a massive, grueling tax to achieve that societal gold standard. You sacrificed your bodily autonomy, your sleep, your mental health, perhaps even pushing yourself to the brink of postpartum depression.
Yeah.
All because society told you it was the only acceptable way to be a good mother. Then you look over and see someone openly exploiting a loophole.
Oh, wow. I see where you're going with this.
Elsie is using formula, prioritizing her own sanity, and refusing to feel the required guilt. The intense anger directed at her isn't really about the baby's nutrition. It's a projection of the resentment those mothers feel about the heavy price they were forced to pay.
That is a staggering way to look at it. They are furious that she opted out of the suffering they thought was mandatory. She realized that after the endometriosis surgery and a grueling 23-hour labor, she needed her body to belong to her again. And she realized that being a mentally stable mother is a medical necessity, not a luxury.
Precisely. She essentially calculated that the immunological benefits of breastfeeding did not outweigh the severe emotional demand, isolation, and physical exhaustion that would break her.
And remarkably, Pete supported her entirely, as did her medical team.
Yeah, having that support is everything.
But wait till you hear what she wore to celebrate her 12-week milestone and the shocking first-date confession that predicted this entire journey. We'll get to that right after this.
Yeah, because that brings us to the visual battleground of celebrity motherhood, defying the snapback expectation.
So picture this. We are 3 months postpartum. It is March 2026. Elsie drops a 12-week milestone post on Instagram that legitimately made the media do a double take.
It broke the internet.
It really did. She is wearing this stunning, sheer, floor-length, off-the-shoulder black lace dress. Entertainment outlets were raving, basically crowning her the queen of postpartum glamour.
And mixed into this post is an incredible detail about the birth itself.
Oh, the time of birth, right?
Yes. On the way to the hospital, she predicted the baby would be born at 3:05 p.m., matching her own March 5th birthday. And after 23 hours of labor, the baby arrived at that exact minute.
That is wild. The universe was certainly aligning the numbers that day. But to understand why this sheer dress post is so subversive, we have to look at the historical mechanism of the celebrity snapback.
Right. If you go back to the tabloid culture of the late 90s and 2000s, the paparazzi operated on a seek and destroy mission for postpartum bodies.
Oh, it was awful.
The societal demand was that a high-profile woman must endure the trauma of birth, disappear behind gates for 6 weeks, and then reemerge, looking as though the pregnancy had never occurred.
It was a concerted effort to erase the physical evidence of women's labor.
Exactly. The underlying cultural message was that a woman's body only holds value when it is returned to its primary function, as an aesthetically pleasing, unblemished object.
And the psychological damage that did to everyday women watching from home is just incalculable.
Absolutely.
You're sitting on your couch, healing from a massive medical event, looking at a magazine cover of a celebrity in a bikini at 4 weeks postpartum. And you don't realize she has a team of night nurses, personal chefs, and heavily retouched photos. You just think you are failing.
Which is why Elsie's approach is so sophisticated. She uses the visual language of the snapback, the glamorous, high-fashion sheer dress, but then she immediately shatters the illusion with raw, textual honesty.
Yes, because the morning after her and Pete's first official date night out, she posts a highly candid Instagram story that is basically a reality check hangover.
Just completely unfiltered.
She looks into the camera and explicitly warns other mothers not to set unrealistic expectations based on her red carpet photos. She admits that she felt like she was, quote, withering away, and that pushing herself to go out for just a few hours left her physically drained because she is still actively healing from the 23-hour labor.
She is refusing to let the glossy photo be the entire narrative.
Exactly.
She is highly curating her child's privacy. They fiercely protect Scottie's face from the internet, much like the Biebers or the Kardashians do, but she is fully democratizing the medical reality of recovery.
And speaking of protecting the baby, we have to talk about Pete's reaction to fatherhood, because it is fascinating on a neurobiological level.
Oh, it totally is.
In an interview, he called being a dad, quote, "theming awesome," but he admitted it unlocked this terrifying, fiercely protective gear in him. He said he has never been a fighter, but suddenly he feels a visceral urge to, quote, beat the living shit out of any paparazzi that gets too close to his kid.
Well, having a child fundamentally reorganizes a person's threat assessment protocol.
How so?
The amygdala becomes hypovigilant to ensure the survival of the offspring. But when you apply that biological shift to someone with Pete's specific background, it amplifies exponentially.
Because his foundational childhood memory is a massive public trauma.
Right. His father, Scott Davidson, was a New York City firefighter who died responding to the September 11th attacks when Pete was just 7 years old.
Yeah, that is so heartbreaking.
When your core understanding of the world is that safety can be violently snatched away in an instant, achieving stability as a father becomes your paramount directive. Naming his daughter Scottie Rose after his late father is a profound, full-circle moment of healing.
Oh, absolutely.
But it also means he perceives the invasive, aggressive tactics of the paparazzi not just as an annoyance, but as a literal threat to the safety of his family unit.
It makes complete sense why he is reacting with such primal aggression to the cameras. And if you are fascinated by the hidden mechanics behind these massive pop culture moments, make sure you hit subscribe. Because if you think the internet was loud about her feeding choices, wait until you hear the timeline of their relationship and the deeply physiological reason they are currently hitting a wall.
Because the timeline is where the fairy tale collides with the ultimate pressure test.
Let's wind the clock back to the origin story, because it is the definition of a whirlwind romance. In a Q&A they did for Bumble, Elsie revealed a genuinely shocking fact about their very first date.
I still can't believe she said this out loud.
Right. She looked at Pete across the dinner table and said, quote, "Don't think that I'm crazy, but I just know that you're going to be the father of my children."
And Pete just nodded and replied, I know.
It is the ultimate cinematic love at first sight narrative. But the velocity of what happened next is staggering.
It really is. I mean, let's look at the dates.
They were first seen publicly at a Knicks game in April 2025. By late spring, they had moved in together. By July, they found out about the unplanned pregnancy. And by December 2025, Scottie was born.
That is incredibly fast.
From a pure physiological and psychological standpoint, what actually happens to a couple when a relationship accelerates at that kind of velocity?
Well, you essentially bypass the tutorial mode of the relationship.
The tutorial mode.
Yeah, like in a video game. In a standard timeline, the first year or two of dating is a low-stakes proving ground. You learn your partner's baseline neurochemistry, you figure out if they withdraw or if they escalate when they're stressed about a flat tire or a bad Tuesday at work.
You're slowly building conflict resolution pathways in the brain.
Exactly. But Elsie and Pete skipped the tutorial and loaded directly into the final boss fight of relationship stressors.
And they are fighting that boss while dealing with an incredible amount of physical trauma. Which brings us to the current state of affairs. Recent reports from sources like Reality T indicate that there is currently, quote, relationship concern. The reports are clear that the baby is their top priority, but the couple has hit a rough patch, and they are working through issues as they adjust to parenthood.
And when you look at the medical reality they're juggling, a rough patch seems entirely unavoidable.
Unavoidable.
It is biologically unavoidable. We have already discussed Elsie's recovery from major endometriosis surgery and a traumatic labor, but Pete is also navigating severe chronic health conditions.
Right, he's been very vocal about that.
He has been very open about his struggles with Crohn's disease, which is an exhausting inflammatory bowel disease, and borderline personality disorder, or BPD.
So how does BPD specifically interact with the demands of a newborn? Because I imagine that is a highly volatile mix.
It is a massive collision of physiology. With borderline personality disorder, the brain's amygdala, which is the center that processes threats and intense emotions, is structurally hyperreactive. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which is supposed to apply logic and hit the brakes on those intense emotions, often struggles to keep up. Now, introduce chronic newborn sleep deprivation.
Because sleep isn't just about resting your eyes, it is a neurological necessity.
Exactly.
Mm.
Deep sleep is the precise biological mechanism that recharges the prefrontal cortex. When you eliminate sleep for weeks on end, you are essentially disconnecting the brain's brakes.
Oh, wow.
So for someone managing BPD, a disagreement at 3 a.m. about washing bottle parts isn't just a standard relationship spat. It becomes a massive physiological event where emotional regulation is nearly impossible.
So when the tabloids report that they are working through issues, the public might read that as a lack of commitment or a sign of failure. But in reality, they are dealing with a severe physiological deficit.
Yes. And the fact that they are openly acknowledging they are struggling, rather than projecting a flawless, curated fairy tale to protect their brand, is actually incredibly healthy.
It aligns perfectly with Elsie's entire approach to motherhood so far. Shatter the unrealistic expectation, tell the truth about the pain, and focus on the mechanics of surviving it.
And that brings us to the biggest takeaway of all.
Yes, it does. If you are listening right now and you have ever felt that crushing weight of doing something the right way at the expense of your own well-being, whether that is in how you parent, how you manage a team at work, or how you navigate a relationship milestone, you know exactly the kind of quiet shame she's describing.
It is a universal human experience. We constantly force ourselves to adhere to the gold standard, even when the mechanics of our actual lives clearly show that the gold standard is breaking us down.
We pay the emotional tax because we were terrified of the public audit.
Exactly.
Elsie Hewitt literally had to change a tiny bottle nipple from a size 1 to a size 2 to stop her baby from struggling and swallowing air. But to stop her own struggling, she had to completely rewrite the societal rules of what makes a good mother. She had to look at the undeniable science of breastfeeding, acknowledge it impartially, and then declare that her mental sanity was the ultimate metric of success for her family.
She realized that exploiting the loophole wasn't a failure. It was a survival tactic. And admitting that a whirlwind romance is exhausting isn't a sign of weakness. It is the first step in actually building those conflict resolution muscles they missed out on.
Which leaves us with this final provocative question for you to mull over today. In a culture completely obsessed with the gold standard, whether that is the expectation of the perfect postpartum body, the flawless career trajectory, or the seamless romantic timeline, what simple size 1 to size 2 adjustment are you actively avoiding right now, simply because you are afraid of the quiet shame attached to it?
It is something to seriously think about the next time you feel like you are forcing a fit that just isn't working.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.